The year is 2011, and Pokémon White had just been released for the Nintendo DS. I was ecstatic. I'd poured so many hours into Pokémon Diamond, Pearl, Soul Silver, and Heart Gold. Also Emerald up to this point. I couldn't keep my all-black DS Lite anywhere without me. It was my favorite thing ever back then. The Pokemon games were such an incremental part of my childhood, like for so many other people. Back in those days, we would follow the guidebooks and really immerse ourselves into the world of Pokemon. We weren't just playing to simply beat the game. We were just doing everything. At least that's how I played it. There was really no better feeling than playing Pokemon games, and I'd often have my DS taken from me because I'd play it too much. Despite this, I still logged hundreds upon hundreds of hours, catching so many Pokemon and building all kinds of different teams. When I wasn't playing the game, I'd be watching my favorite Pokemon YouTubers, MTG Xerxes, Maryland, and Killer Notch. I lived and breathed Pokemon. It was mine and all of my friends' favorite thing to talk about. I still remember so vividly being at my homie's house and playing Diamond, where I was surfing over the Pokemon League for the first time. Pokemon was a huge deal for me, and it still is to this day, so many years later. So when we found out that a new game was coming out, the hype was unreal. I remember being so happy to get a fresh copy of Pokemon White, and I was really expecting great things. Yet after 10 minutes into my playthrough, I don't even remember which starter I chose. I was unhappy with the game. I didn't like the new Pokemon, the new graphics. It was so different from my beloved Sinnoh region. Now, I also loved Emerald, Soul Silver, and Heart Gold, which were different from Sinnoh. So why didn't I like this game? Well, to me, Pokemon White and Black felt bland, inauthentic, fraudulent. I guess this just goes to show my stubbornness and disliking of change. That's just kind of been an inherent thing in my personality. I stick to the things that I really love heavily, but when it comes to new things, I'm often don't take a liking to them. Hence why, I've stuck to Valorant for so many years and Gen 4 overused. When I find something that I really love, I really stick with it. I don't follow trends or do what's new just for the virtue of its newness. Take, for example, the games I've played recently. They're all older games, and that includes my re-exploration of Pokemon White. Now, why would I pick up a game that I hated as a kid? Well, it was an active practice of intellectual open-mindedness and an acknowledgement that, hey, I might have been wrong about something, let's try this again. And to get to this point took me many years. It was through my own education that I developed a perspective like this. If there's one thing that I'd want everyone to learn from this video, is to try something that you may have disliked from your past again. Now, there's a strong possibility that you don't like it. However, this practice can be extremely valuable because had I not tried or attempted at all, I would have never come to appreciate Pokemon Black and White like I do today. You really never know. Once some years pass by, you may have this profound liking for something that you could not fully grasp before. Anyways, though, back to when I was a kid, I rushed over to my good friend and neighbor's house and sold them the game for $10 after having that negative experience. I think I was just too loyal to Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Emerald. White, to me, with its new Pokemon and weird color schematics, it just felt like a filler game to me. And it wasn't the Pokemon I knew, and that's why I rejected it so hard. Now, let's move forward here. Fast forward to when I'm 25 years old. And for those who don't know, I do have a degree in philosophy. And so, as I was talking about above, about intellectual open-mindedness, that concept, one of the papers that I wrote was on peer disagreement, which was all about exploring people's different views. For example, I love Naruto. I think it's a 10 out of 10. And it genuinely baffles me when someone who has seen it all thinks it's terrible. It's puzzling to me. I've actually never encountered someone who had that perspective, but I'm just giving you guys an example. Now, everyone has different tastes and preferences in life. Yet somehow people's opposing views can be really mysterious and, I guess, shocking sometimes. And having done this kind of work opened my mind up to actually giving series that I discarded a second chance. Because having to write on this topic opened up my mind to the possibility, hey, I might be seriously wrong about certain things. Until I've fully played through the game, I can't quite make an accurate judgment on how good it is. And I'm generally really, that's not always true though. I'm generally excellent at discerning what I like and dislike when it comes to anime, manga, clothes, etc. Yet Pokemon White, so many years later, really stuck out in my head. I was only 11 years old when I got this game, man. Am I really that good of a judge at 11? Maybe for my 11-year-old self and what I needed back then I was. But you know, that changes as you get older. Sometimes we really learn how to appreciate certain media more as an adult. Like, even for an example of things that you do like. Revenge of the Sith is a narrative that's depths I've come to appreciate more and more as I've gotten older. Every time I watch the movie, the recent read I did of the novel just made me appreciate the story that much more. You know, so not to say that I didn't love and understand the movie as a kid. It's just that certain themes and messages are really enhanced the more I experience it and the older I get. Now, my problems with White were never aimed directly at the game itself. It was the fact that the game I was getting was not something familiar. It was a brand new project. Now, being someone who frequently watched video essays, I couldn't help but stumble across a video essay on N, and instantly his character really stood out to me. I didn't watch the full video because I didn't want to get spoiled. And even without seeing any of the video, I could tell there was a ton of depth there with N's character. His aura just said it all. And seeing AJ's video covering an in-depth analysis of the world of Pokemon Black and White, and then hearing all of my Pokemon buddies talk about how much they love Gen 5. Also I played Gen 5 OU and I was having a blast. And then one of my good friends who I talked to and hung out with in person when I first started playing Showdown was the #1 Gen 5 OU player on the ladder for months. You know, and I played friendlies versus him and it was great. Hearing Gen 5's amazing, beautifully uplifting music score, you know, these were all really positive experiences that kind of built up momentum and were huge factors, major factors, which led to my decision to give Gen 5 a fair chance, because I've had all these experiences that are positive involving Gen 5 OU. And up to that point, I had already replayed Platinum, Soul Silver, and Emerald in 2024, 2025, so it was the perfect timing and opportunity to give Pokemon White a fair chance. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and purchased a copy of White for like $40, which, by the way, was a terrible mistake. I could say that, but also the seller was a fucking bitch. Let's just call it how it is. I wish I paid $75 for one, because holy shit, this dude sold me the fakest cartridge ever. I guess it wasn't like the fakest, it was just the worst working cartridge ever. Everything on there, it might have been fake, right? But it was still the game. It just crashed every fucking minute, which made the playthrough kinda rough. I was saving like every 15 seconds. Besides that, though, this game was the best decision ever for me to pick up and play again. I can actually recall speaking with my homie who moved to Germany, whom I sold that $10 copy to, 15 years later. And they told me, bro, that game is insane. Because Game Freak genuinely pushed the Nintendo DS hardware to its absolute limits. And they were right, because I was completely stunned by just how immersive and diverse the world building in this game was. In some areas, it felt like I was in New York City. Others, a beach town or a forest. The environments were so wildly different, yet they blended so beautifully well together. I loved the changing of the seasons aspect as well. You truly felt like you were a trainer on a journey. The world felt so damn real. And the beauty of this being added into the game was that the player got to experience the very best aspects of their favorite seasons in-game, such as the different colors and the moods, emotions that seasons offer us. For example, I remember when it was autumn for me and I was met with all the amazing orangish glowing colors that exist during the time period of fall. And this part of the game is really something else and was such a genius artistic decision. Now, this enhanced the overall vibe and style of the game from the standpoint of creating a memorable experience. Like, hello, the game has 4 different graphic types, and the devs put serious love into the creation of this, and that is felt by me and anyone else who played Black and White. I mean, hell, they even gave fucking individual routes different OSTs to spend, like, depending on the season. That level of detail and care put into work really elevates a video game to me. It shows us how hard everyone worked and how this was done from the heart and soul. Also, the settings were pushed to their limits with all the amazing features, with the different rotating perspectives, zooming out and closer. In addition, each Pokemon sprite had its own unique animation loop while in battle. That's 649 Pokemon, by the way. Each one having something custom, unique to itself. From a developing perspective, Pokemon Black and White are one of video games' prime examples of peak effort and care put into a project. Regardless of whether it resonated the most with me or is my favorite Pokemon game, it is clear that tons of work went into this project to bring us Pokemon fans something we had never seen before and will remember forever. From Sky Arrow Bridge's cinematic zoomed out perspective to Castelia City's wonderful shifting perspective of skyscrapers popping up emphatically around you in the big city, a vibe was created, a beautiful atmosphere that surprised me so much during my playthrough. It was something fresh, never seen or done before in any Pokemon game. I loved it. It left me in awe. Pair this with the lovely and excellent music score that is Gen 5, and this game has left a permanent 10 out of 10 impression on me, and will forever be very special to me and an all-time favorite video game. Just like DPP and Emerald, just in a different way. In a really different way. I never thought a game that is played by 6-year-olds would actually challenge my own philosophical understanding of the world in such a meaningful way. A huge motivator for me to re-explore this game was N's character, as I stated earlier. I could tell that there was so much underlying the surface with N, and I truly believe in my heart and soul that he's the best written character in all of the Pokemon franchise. I haven't experienced such a beautiful masterclass in the depths of story writing and philosophy akin to N in any other game, really. Pokemon game. That's why, as a game and project, Black and White stand out to me in a really special way. Almost feel extremely blessed and lucky to have not experienced the story until I was 25 years old. That is because with my depth, experience the story. Okay, okay, I see what I'm trying to say. I guess because when at this age, I could process the depth, and I've always had the love for wisdom ever since I was a kid, but it's really just like come a long way from my education, so I could really understand the depths of the story in a whole different way compared to when I was a kid. Yeah, and as a kid, I don't think I would really be able to understand the complexity that this game story had to offer me. Now, everything about N is brilliant. His character, the trainer, like the beauty of this game is that as the trainer, you're not really trying to become the league champion and be the very best. While that still for sure exists, Pokemon White's narrative carries much more weight. You're actively working to change someone's ideals while also battling with your own. N isn't completely unjustified in his argument that all Pokemon should be free. N's argument is justified in many ways, and his view of Pokemon as individuals deserving of rights, autonomy, and liberation is something that is truly heartfelt. It's clear to us that N has a deep care for Pokemon and loves them very much. N was only exposed to injured and abandoned Pokemon during his childhood, leading to his strong belief that Pokemon should be freed and not contained in Pokeballs. It's through N that we can understand how beliefs can be formed. N was only shown the absolute worst in humanity, mistreating the Pokemon that he loved so much. N's choice to isolate himself from humanity and free Pokemon only further drove home his beliefs to free Pokemon completely from humans. Yet, the problem is this is a very drastic view. What if the trainer genuinely loves their Pokemon and the Pokemon loves their trainer? Now, I believe N's perspective is an extremely valuable one and an argument that raises a serious question. As a player, I thought he had a good point. It is a bit strange to be placing these animals in Pokeballs and carrying them around. Yet, there's a key aspect of N's view that is lacking, and that's his exposure. N, as I said earlier, was only exposed and saw the very worst. Abandonment, abuse, the horrors of those aspects of humanity that would scar anyone, especially when it comes to something that they feel very strongly about. N never saw the beautiful friendships and bonds shared between both human and Pokemon. Being that individual, that trainer, that shows N his perspective is not fully correct through the camaraderie and the friendship you have with your team of Pokemon was one of the most powerful things I've experienced in any form of media or storytelling. Now, I do agree with N's perspective. Pokemon should be free from humans, but not every single human. They should be freed from those mistreating them, or if the Pokemon genuinely wants to be in the wild. If the Pokemon are genuinely happy to be a part of a trainer's team, or say working alongside humans, they should be able to do that as well. Because after all, true freedom for Pokemon would be in respecting their decisions to maintain their bonds with humans, or to pursue their own autonomy in whichever way suits them best. I'm a huge fan of N as a character because his backstory is so intriguing. Despite being around such a terrible environment and raised by Gestus, a villain, the leader of Team Plasma, he still has good intentions, and while his perspective isn't correct because it's far too, far from the truth, you can tell that N genuinely has a good heart and was really coming from the right place despite having the wrong viewpoint. It's as though the game's Pokemon Black and White themselves are a direct reference to N's own perceptions of the world. His painful upbringing led to his extreme view on the relationships between humans and Pokemon, and this didn't allow for any room for a middle ground perspective. That is why I believe this game is to be a masterpiece, not due to the advancements in graphics, Pokemon, or settings, but the amazing exploration of how beliefs are formed and how experience shapes them. Both this paired with the clashing of rival ideals between the trainer and N was written so well. Some of my most favorite stories center around this same concept. For example, Monster with Tenma's idealism and Johan's nihilism, or Naruto with Sasuke's Shintoism clashing with Naruto's Buddhism. Opposing viewpoints clashing, when each side has a unique lived experience to offer, makes not just for a game, it creates an active deep dive into challenging our beliefs on the world, and also taking time to understand the events that led to said viewpoints. It's also the polarity between two different viewpoints that creates a dynamic that is extremely powerful. If N simply agreed with us from the start, this dynamic would never be possible. Being from your perspective as the main character in the story, and the trainer who changes N's outlook is extremely powerful, and it's felt so very strongly. N's viewpoint didn't just change from the player. It changed because of the valuable bond between trainer and Pokemon that was on full display. As a trainer, your Pokemon genuinely love you and want to fight alongside you. And this highlights that sacred bond that may go overlooked in other games. Through my playthroughs, I obviously love my teams and I love Pokemon, but it's just highlighted so beautifully in Pokemon White, and it's a major reason why I feel so strongly about this game. It really highlights the friendship between Pokemon and trainers so excellently, much like friendships in anime, in the sense that these aren't just animals being exploited, they're able comrades who share a profound link of affection to their trainers that is enduring through anything. This isn't the only profound aspect of Pokemon Black and White's title or story. The titles Black and White are a direct inspiration from the yin-yang from Taoism. In Pokemon White, you catch Zekrom, who's black. In Black, you catch Reshiram, who's white. And then you also have Kyurem, who's a representation of the middle path and the middle ground. And I found this contrast in titles of games and legendaries to titles, an overall theme of differing views in this game to be nothing short of intriguing and a masterclass in creative direction. Now, the reason I found this intriguing is because of the intentionality that was on full display of incorporating Taoist symbolism to fully encapsulate the beauty of opposites. In White, we are greeted with lush forests, whereas Black is more centered in a metropolis. What's so fundamentally genius about this creative direction of emphasizing opposites is the message about life itself. Life is not black and white. There is such thing as a middle ground. Opposites can coexist, and just because one is different from the other does not make one better than said other. The game is actively advocating against adverse extreme viewpoints, and I can't think of a more relevant philosophy to the real world than this one, for obvious reasons. Coexistence and understanding really starts to begin when we are able to stop rigid thinking and open our mind to brand new perspectives. N had that breakthrough by battling me, or if you have played white/black yourself, through admitting his worldview is wrong, N finally realizes something, that you aren't a threat to his goal. You are actually living proof of what is possible when Pokemon and humans coexist, and realizes you want exactly the same thing, and that your shared love for Pokemon is something that needs to be upheld by both N and said trainer. This doesn't mean Pokemon who are mistreated or abandoned should go overlooked. If anything, it shows how much we need to actively combat that because of how much trainers love their Pokemon and Pokemon love their trainers. Now, I'm probably repeating myself a bit here, but I just can't get over it. Just how profound of a game this is. It masterfully incorporates Tao and Buddhist philosophy into a story that some may just overlook as something for 5-year-olds. From the narrative of Pokemon Black and White, we can learn that true peace in life comes from balancing opposites. By viewing the world from an all-or-nothing perspective, it causes suffering. That is because there's a severe lack of nuance in one's thinking. For example, complexity is completely ignored. I've encountered people in life who discount entire art forms simply because they perceive them as being negative or toxic. And this is an extremely narrow mindset. Because say, for example, someone sees screamo music or heavy metal as bad or leading to violent behavior. This isn't a realistic viewpoint because you never know what that kind of art has done for people. I've heard stories of that genre of music saving people from depression or even saving their lives. Yet people will often judge things on a surface level. Myself included. Look how I dropped White and was completely wrong about it, and not fully grasp the depths of concepts that they cannot understand. Ultimately, I believe that it is important to take the middle path in life rather than extremes. Because the truth and one's own thinking are two very different things. Now, this is not to say that I think you should like everything. All I'm saying is the extreme viewpoints of I don't like this, so this is bad and it sucks for everybody is just too extreme. It might not be your taste. It might be someone else's taste, and that's great. Alright, anyways. So like I was saying about truth and one's own rigid thinking being different, we have really observed that in N's rigid mindset that all Pokemon should be freed from trainers, versus the truth that many Pokemon love their trainers and enjoy being with them. Ironically enough, as I was writing this essay, I noticed that N's hat is also black and white, representing everything observed up to this point in terms of that perspective and rigidity. Overall, I was like N. I had a rigid mindset. If this game isn't like DPP, Emerald, or HG/SS, then I don't want to play it. However, when I was 25, I chose the middle path. Hey, let's explore this again and see if I like it. Who knows? It might be fantastic. Those are my thoughts. No expectations, just an open mind willing to experience what was being offered to me. And man, did Pokemon White deliver. Castelia City will remain one of my favorite OSTs of all time, forever, eternally. That upbeat tone, there's just something about it I just love so much. It's a triumphant and jazzy beat that is catchy and feels like it's ringing to propel you forward on your grand adventure through the city. I'm also extremely fond of the OST Accumula Town. Its cheery cadence, and claps with its winding rhythm just create this positive vibe. And that energy becomes so infectious. Of course, Driftveil City is goated. We all know that. And then Sky Arrow Bridge also carries this same uplifting tone, a breath of fresh air, excitement being felt through this track as you're zoomed out completely crossing the bridge. It's like a celebration of all the possibilities and fun that lie ahead for you on your journey. Now, my 2025 Pokemon White playthrough is actually something that I forgot about, but when I went for a walk around my old college campus recently, I've recalled its greatness so vividly. How in the hell did I forget its greatness and leave it out of my top 11 experiences of 2025 video? I guess I did upload my own battle with the Elite Four, but man, seriously. Huge shout out though to my boys, Nianshao, Bisharp, and Darmanian. Fucking goats. I also love the extra grind of running the fade back versus the Elite Four, and lucky egg training maxing to get my squad up to level 80. So fucking fun. It made the victory that much sweeter. And I can't get over the fact that I played this right before Final Fantasy X. Masterpiece after masterpiece, and that was no coincidence. I feel so privileged to experience such life-changing stories that I adore so much. I appreciate their messages, and I want to continue to play more peak games and write about how much they've changed my life. Now, speaking of Sky Arrow Bridge, before I started my playthrough of Pokemon White, like right before, I actually found an Instagram reel of two cosplayers dancing in N and Hilda cosplays in New York on a bridge. And I thought their Gen 5 content was very funny. And seeing how much others, such as these cosplayers and AJ, loved Pokemon Black and White really motivated me to give it a second chance. And I'm so glad that I did, because Pokemon White has become one of my favorite pieces of media ever. Pokemon White and Black are masterpieces. Thank you for watching.